Welcome to the Stuff and Things Podcast, your home for all stuff related to your favorite things in entertainment. Now, here are your hosts.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Stuff and Things Podcast. I am Sam and today we're talking about the new Captain America film, Brave New World. Joining me is my partner in crime, it's Stefan.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, night.
All of that.
Dawn,
Gonna cover all the bases.
brunch. Yeah, I think that's everything.
Yeah, brunch. Ooh, brunch. That's a great idea. Great
10
plan.
o'clocks, 11 o'clocks, 12s. Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
Good. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Admin to kick us off. This is discussing Marvel's latest entry into the MCU, Captain America 4, titled Brave New World. The first Captain America outing with Sam Wilson holding the shield. It's me and Stefan here. Now, normally, for anything Marvel related, we can rely on the superfan herself to be involved. However, she said all of her fans are smelly, she doesn't like any of them, and she just can't be bothered to be here anymore. So, I mean, that's a direct quote.
It was a shocker. It was an absolute shocker.
Yeah, direct quote. She said she doesn't like you, and you all smell funny. Basement dwellers, I think she said at one point as well. I mean, obviously, I'll give out all of her number and email, etc., at the end of the show, so you can direct your feedback to her. I mean, her number starts 07, and I'll give the rest at the end of the show. But anyway, mate, this is a new film in the MCU. I know for a fact that you get kind of nervous now, almost, when there's a new film coming out. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, that is completely accurate. I think I I went into Thor 4 and into Ant-Man 3 with such high expectations and left the cinema and basically, apart from a podcast, never spoke about them again.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I was kind of like, now every time a movie comes out, I'm like, Guardians of the Galaxy and Black Panther kind of brought it back up again. And then the Marvels, I loved the Marvels. I thought that was really good. Deadpool came out and I was like, okay, now we're back on kind of, we're good. Yeah. And it was like, but Captain America is obviously like, that's one of the OG names.
Yeah.
And with it being a new title character, but not a new title character, it's still Captain America, but obviously now Sam Wilson is dead. Yeah. There was this little part of me that was like, how are they going to do this? Yeah,
that's fair.
How's this going to go? So, yeah, it was a little bit of nerves.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think when you're a fan of something, a fan of anything, it can be kind of, especially when, I mean, there's that saying in that, live long enough to become the villain. It's kind of the MCU when it arrived and everything was interconnected and the films were very grounded and all very good standalone films. It was this incredible sort of cinematic universe. It's kind of incredible. It wasn't like a trilogy of films. This was something big, like the first time they've been done on this scale. And I think everyone just kind of bought into it, loved it. It was amazing. And then it started, like, for me, it's kind of interesting because it started to turn earlier than I think a lot of people now attribute it. I remember the reaction to the Captain Marvel film.
Yes.
And I remember watching it because I saw the reaction and everything, and I was like, oh no. Is this the first, like, oh no, it's like people, and I watched it and I loved it. Like, there's 90s nostalgia, like, it's very much me. So it was kind of like, I don't get why people didn't like this. And then, of course, what happened then is there was kind of a backlash to the backlash, which then put everyone's backs up. It was like, oh, you don't like it just because it's a woman in the lead. Yeah. And then that just pissed people off. And then it kind of like became entrenched after that. Like, it became fashionable not to like stuff. Do you know what I mean by that? It like became the thing
like
to
all
do.
of a sudden, like you had all these people that liked or loved the Marvel stuff at the beginning because it wasn't a big thing. When the first Iron Man and stuff came out, it was
Yeah.
kind of new, and it was all like geeky comic book movies for people like that. And then they kind of became real mainstream, and I think you suddenly got this group of people where, you know, it's not cool to like mainstream, so therefore we must hate it.
Yeah, that's kind of fair. Yeah,
and that kind of started happening a bit, and it was like, oh no. And I felt like you're probably right. It was probably that Captain Marvel was probably like that first movie where I looked at the feedback and kind of went, oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay. This isn't what I expected. Okay.
No, and I've never really understood it, to be honest with you. I enjoyed it, and it felt very
I've enjoyed both of them.
Yeah. So I don't. People just don't seem to like her, and I don't get that. I don't. Yeah, but anyway, that's. I guess the other thing is kind of like going into this film, coming back, focusing on this, Captain America: Brave New World, and the feedback on this is so bipolar in a way. There's people that I know and I talk with and have very similar kind of tastes who have absolutely hated it. Like,
oh really?
Yeah. I know people who come out of the cinema and described it as the worst piece of garbage they've ever seen. And I'm just like, I don't see that. Like, I don't see it. But yeah, no, like I know critics don't like it. I know there's a lot of very well-paid and very renowned film critics who have absolutely panned it. I know there's a lot of kind of social media influencer types who are kind of on the fence. Some like it, some don't, which is fine. I mean, it's all very opinion-based, and that's fine. I mean, I've got an opinion, you've got an opinion. Everybody listening to this will have an opinion on the film they've seen. So that never kind of phases me really, but it does seem to be a real kind of like, because there's bits in the film which I've made notes of like, that seemed a strange decision to me, or like, couldn't you have done this? But I could literally do that with any film, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, me and you talked about like, you're worried the MCU jumping the shark, and I was like, really, mate? If you go to Endgame, it leapt over the shark whilst doing a somersault, but the film was so good in the kind of build up to it, everyone just brushes right past all of that.
Oh, completely. There's portals opening up from different dimensions to fight an alien attack. Like, really, we're talking about jumping sharks. That's got to be right up there.
Yeah. Whereas, it's, you know, magical portals. Let's not forget that. So yeah, it is. There's a lot. I mean, it's comic book stuff, so it is going to be kind of crazy. But so to dive into this film, I think first of all, we want to talk about. There is an election, and President Ross, the newly elected President Ross, played by Harrison Ford, who's taken over the role from the late William Hurt, who of course sadly passed away.
Yes.
What did you think about two things of this? One, what did you think about Harrison Ford joining the MCU?
Love him. Love the idea.
And two, what did you think about his portrayal of Ross? Did you feel it was a fair continuation of the character you've come to know, or did you think it did feel like someone completely different?
I'll be honest, I always struggle when actors change.
Yeah.
I've always struggled with it, and I probably always will struggle with it. Because you are so used to seeing a person as that character.
Yeah.
However, I am a massive, massive, massive fan of Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the best actors, just point blank. So having him in the MCU, I was so happy about.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed how he kind of portrayed Ross in this. That kind of, he's desperate to show he's a new side of himself and a new character almost, but at the same time, having to deal with the rest of it.
Which to me, I was. Do you attribute that? Because I did. I attribute that to quite good writing, because there was a lot of almost jokes in there about the fact it's a different actor.
Yes.
I'm a changed man is a line which literally made me, you know, in a Deadpool film, he'd have broke the fourth wall there, just looking at the camera, you know. So that was kind of quite a fun little nod. I also laughed at Sam saying to him, "I can't get used to the new look," and him basically saying, "Oh yeah, I had to shave the mustache off." Like that was what he was alluding to. So there were lots of little things that was kind of playing on the fact the actors changed. But I also felt so that was kind of fun, and I think that's the right way to deal with it. But there was also the way it was written about him trying to be different allowed Harrison Ford to put his own spin on the character, his own view on it.
Yeah. I think it worked. I do think it worked. The way they did it, the way they wrote it, I think it worked.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think so. So we've got President Ross. We catch up again with Sam. Now, straight away, this film is going to be about Tiamat, or the, what do they call it, Celestial Island.
Yes.
How happy were you that finally that's being dealt with? And what do you think about the fact that basically this is how they're introducing adamantium into the MCU?
Yeah, it has been a long time. And not only has it been a long time, we've had a lot of movies and Disney Plus shows come out since the whole Eternal thing and this Celestial appearing in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
Did you know there's been one mention? Tiny...
Was it a newspaper article in She-Hulk?
Yeah,
That's
it was an online thing. She's looking at the article, and then down in the corner, it's like a giant alien emerges from ocean. So basically, it was a joke. Oh. Basically, She-Hulk was a kind of comedy poking fun at the MCU, and the writers put that in as a joke at the fact that no one's talking about it, and it was ridiculous.
Like, it was a massive thing. Like, ignoring the ramifications that would have had on like the entire world and the amount of water that was displaced and how islands would now be underwater. Ignore all that stuff because it's a comic book thing and we're fine with that.
Yeah.
But the fact that nobody has mentioned, wait a minute, there was a giant thing that now looks like a face that was living inside our planet the whole time.
Yeah.
That would have people talking.
It was,
But it's not been mentioned at all. So for this to be like, Celestial Island, I was like, oh, at last. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. Adamantium, they're going to try and like basically weaponize it and make money out. Yeah, that's very human. That works. That works.
There's a funny, I hate to, I'm so old when I say this, it just looks badly, but there's a funny TikTok where this guy does this thing where it's like aliens, is how aliens would react to watching humans.
Yes.
And it's this like thing of like, oh look, they've made tools. Oh, that's brilliant because now they've made tools. They're able to. They're using them as weapons. Oh, great. Oh look, they've made fire. Brilliant. Warmth. They can cook food now, and they're burning each other. Brilliant. And it goes on and on and on, as you can imagine.
Oh my god, they can make vehicles. No, they've made tanks.
It just goes on and on like that, and it is funny. I mean, it's tragic and awful, but it is very accurate.
Spot on. Yep.
Yeah. So when it comes to this, you're absolutely right. But the thing I found kind of interesting is I, like you, possibly from the trailer, deemed that it was going to be a complete arms race. And by that, it was like from the trailer, it was pretty obvious there was tension between different countries, and Captain America was going to be trying to kind of, bring about peace, everybody chill or whatever. But actually, there's a presentation given at the White House by President Ross where he's on about sharing it all with the world. His attitude to this isn't the kind of what I was expecting, dare I use this phrase on a podcast, America first kind of attitude. It was very much this kind of, no, the best thing for this to be is we have this treaty, and then this can be applied to medicines, this can be applied to defense and stuff. But so he says that quite openly. Yeah,
there was a little almost like a backhanded comment in the presentation about Wakanda as well, like we can't have this like shielded from the world, and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, he described Wakanda as an isolationist nation.
That's it.
That controlled all of vibranium, and whereas this could like, I guess it was kind of this kind of balances the power. I guess that was what he was trying to say. They've got vibranium, but we're gonna have this. We're gonna have adamantium. It's a really interesting kind of take. Here's another thing. What did you make of the countries that were involved in this? So the US and Japan, okay, yeah, I get that.
Yep.
India, so the Indian Ocean is where it is. That makes perfect sense. Why do you think the French were the other nation involved in this?
I think it was just a kind of there was always going to be a European contingency in there.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it was something as simple as United Kingdom would have been too obvious.
Yeah, we can't really just keep having us claiming things all around the world as well.
No, we've done that stage.
We've done that. We've moved on. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it's the next people's turn.
Well, what is interesting to me, and again, this is possibly just one of these stupid things that I've spotted, but do you remember in Black Panther 2, it was the French who were trying to steal vibranium from the Wakandans,
wasn't it? Yes.
And she does that whole thing of like showing them up at this big meeting at the UN.
And now they've found something better than...
Well,
so
that
makes sense.
So it's just kind of like, France appears to be in a bit of an arms race with this stuff, and it's just kind of, keep an eye on that. That just seems a little bit of a strange one. The bloody French. Now, there's like a sample that's been taken, and it's been stolen by the Serpent Society, which leads us into the first thing of real kind of discussion point. So Sam as Captain America, and how quickly, I mean, Torres with like wanting to be Falcon, it's like, can I help? Can I put yes, okay, don't get killed. Yeah, I know, don't get killed. Torres is Falcon, we all knew was coming. And I like the fact
that... Not sad about that at all. I like his character.
I like his character a lot. And I also like the fact that we didn't have this long drawn out, no, you can't wear the suit, it's too dangerous, or anything like that. It was like, okay, right from the start, just dive into it. Let's not give him like a crazed origin story behind why he's wearing it. He thinks it's cool and he wants to play.
If anything, we got the origin story at the very, very end.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. The evolution of him, yeah. So he's involved, and the two of them do manage to stop the Serpent Society. Now, here's my first interesting fact, potentially, for anyone. There's a lot of stuff about this film going through a lot of reshoots. Now, with the MCU, Marvel, it's not uncommon for them to film the whole thing, go away for post-production, because the post-production on anything Marvel's big because of all the effects, and then bring everyone back for reshoots and stuff. Like, they put the effects in it, like, that doesn't work, we need to change that, etc., etc.
Yeah.
This film went through a lot, and there was a rumour that came out at the time that when the test footage was looked at by Kevin Feige and people like that, they really weren't happy with a few things. And then there was another rumour that came out that there's a character in it who was from Israel, former Mossad, who was a character from the comic books, and they wanted to take that character out completely because of the strength of feeling of what was going on in the Middle East in the real world. And so there's a lot of stuff that when I watched the film, I was kind of like, okay, that feels like that was a snip there and stuff like that. But one of the things I find kind of interesting is there is a phenomenal actor was added at the 11th hour, and that phenomenal actor, whose name I will absolutely butcher.
Go on.
I'm trying to find it in my notes now.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes. What you said, that's correct. Now, he's brilliant. Anyone who's watched shows like Breaking Bad and stuff like that, he's phenomenal. He's in The Mandalorian.
He's an incredible actor.
He plays bad guys well. And
the presence he has on a screen.
Yeah, and he's in charge of the Serpent Society. Now, he wasn't that character. And all of those scenes, those fight scenes and everything like that was filmed with a different actor playing that role. initially. And when they came back for reshoots, that other actor was dropped and this guy was brought in. Now, the other actor isn't so much an actor as a WWE wrestler called Seth Rollins.
Oh, okay.
Who was originally in that role at Sidewinder. So they obviously looked at that and decided they wanted dialogue, I'm guessing. They obviously made a change with what they wanted to do, and they decided they wanted, therefore, an actor of some sort of standing. And then please don't take this, Mr. Rollins, as a diss on you, but you've literally never acted in a film before, or any sort of Hollywood film before anyway.
No.
And so I imagine if they made that decision, that's why they did it. They wanted someone who could come in and hit a few scenes rather than just having a certain look.
I guess from there you're then able to kind of beef the character out, because he has quite a few scenes with Sam Wilson and stuff, so it makes sense to...
He does, yeah. Now, now you can find this out there. All the leaked set images, and there's even leaked footage of those scenes. There's the scene on the road where the character Sidewinder attacks Sam Wilson, blows up his car, etc. You can literally find all of the images of that scene, that set, everything the same, but with the wrestler Seth Rollins doing the attacking. So so that was obviously a big change they made, and that was kind of like it was interesting to me because I knew all of that from like leaked stuff I'd seen. So when I'm watching the film, I was kind of like, oh wow, that's very that, like, I knew they'd added Giancarlo late on, like everyone knew that, like the film had almost pretty much finished filming, and then he was announced. It was like, okay, that's strange. But yeah, it was literally a replacement. I was expecting, you see a guy like Seth Rollins is going to be added, you're expecting him to be, hired muscle sort of thing.
Almost, he could have played the what's the other guy, the Copperhead, the guy that comes out. You fit that big sort of character.
Yeah, I mean that guy's literally in one scene. So that was strange to me. That was odd. I didn't. I mean, obviously they made the decision, and when they were re-looking at it, they wanted to make the change. But yeah, I mean that Giancarlo Esposito, I mean he's phenomenal, and the thing that he can do, which a lot of actors, experienced actors, can't do, is he can hold a scene just by speaking quietly. You know, he can draw you in, like you almost feel like you're sitting closer in your chair. You know what I mean? It's like as he draws you in to sort of deliver a line. And I think the ability to do something like that adds something, because like you said, later on there's some exposition, and he has the ability to do that in a way that kind of draws you right in to this. Like, oh, here we go.
He's an actor who, the quieter he gets, the scarier his characters get.
Yes, that's also very, very, very true. Yeah, the other thing, so the other big thing that got changed in the reshoots is the main villain, the leader, Samuel Stearns. And I'd love to get your take on this, because I know you're a sort of fan of the comics and stuff. And the thing that got changed was his look. So if you look at the leader in the comic books, he basically has an enlarged head. As my brother would say to me as a child, slaphead, and that's how that goes. But it's basically like a big enlarged forehead, and that was the original concept. And you can see again all of the concept designs and everything for this character are online. You can find them, to the point that they obviously filmed it this way because Funko Pops have had to do a recall on their initial design of the character for a Funko Pop.
Oh, if anyone's got one of those, keep hold of it.
Oh, big time, yeah. So that is how far that was done, and then it would appear again from the sort of what's being said now, is literally in the final reshoots to the film, it was completely changed. And it was changed to this kind of disfigured, kind of brain almost bursting out of his skull kind of thing. Now, it was, to me, it was kind of grotesque. and so it was a decision was obviously made to make him that way, and not just look like a guy with a bigger domed head. What did you think to that? Is it something that even was on your radar about how the character should look or looked in the comics? And what did you think? Because I have a theory of why they changed it, but I'd love to get your view.
Okay, so I know what the character should look like in the comic books.
Yeah.
But I had absolutely no issues at all with them changing the kind of look. I thought the kind of look of like what looks like half his brain kind of literally coming out through his skull. I thought that looks disgustingly awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it was one of those kind of, I think we kind of say like, you know, the realism in the non-real world sort of thing.
Yeah.
And if this guy has had kind of like the probability, he can guess all these probabilities, and he must have like such a big brain to get all that kind of knowledge and be that clever. So therefore, give him an actual big brain that can't be helped. I'm like, yeah, that was gross but cool.
So I think when they did it all, and he had the big sort of shiny dome, just like in the comics, etc. I think they would have sat back and possibly remembered what happened with their version of MODOK.
Yeah, that was awful.
It was awful.
That was awful.
And people hated it and ripped on it. I mean, and please, no, I would still stand by that being just the most stupidest idea they've had. But
so the problem is someone went to the table with that idea and went, guys, look, this is how I think it should be portrayed. Yeah. And other people went, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
that's what worries me.
That is the worrying thing, yeah. But with this, I wonder if that played a part. I wonder if they kind of looked at it and went, oh, when we've tried to make something look very comic book accurate, it just looks very cartoony. So let's not try. Let's do it. But they obviously went as far as shooting and doing all the art and everything for it to be that way. So this must have been a very last minute decision.
Which kind of makes me happy at the same time, because it means that they have actually watched it back and gone, yeah, either with a test audience or just by themselves, and gone, yeah, that's not what we're looking for. We're going to change it and make it better.
Yeah.
Unlike, you know, we mentioned earlier, like the Thor 4 with the Thanos ice cream thing, where it was like, surely someone must have looked at that and gone, that doesn't feel right. Well, but it was still there.
What is interesting, and we've discussed it a little bit when we talked about Marvel things in the past, is Kevin Feige's involvement in the initial phases of the film was very hands-on, very much kind of making sure everything coordinates and everything works. He was then kind of seconded, if you like, over to Lucasfilm for a while, and what Marvel did, which was their error, but I can understand how it happened, is they then rehired directors they'd used before and gave them autonomy. And we're like, you know what you're doing now. You've done one of these before. Crack on. And the problem you then had is everyone was kind of, rather than bigger picture, okay, Kevin, this is what I want to do, and him saying, yeah, okay, but you can't use this character, or you can only do this. Or, look, I don't think people in the world would be, you know, thinking of the Thanos situation as anything other than horrific, you know, so, you know, don't put that in, cut that joke. I mean, Thor is an interesting one, because not only is it hard for me to say, it also is what happens, I think, when a director gets pissed off. And from everything I've read about that film, there is 30 minutes on the cutting room floor which is dark, which is the Christian Bale character literally murdering gods and being a very, very nasty villain in that film. Yeah. And he was forced to cut it, was basically told, no, it's too dark, you're not, you know, this is no good. You know, make it more like you did with Ragnarok, make it more funny. And so he went completely goofy.
Yeah.
As almost like a fuck you, this is all you want, that's fine, that's what I'll give you.
Yeah.
But again, this goes back to this kind of giving the directors overall control over the project, because it just meant that everything's been disjointed for a while. Everything was kind of all over the place. I mean, like, one of the better films in the recent years was Guardians 3. But if you actually think about it, again, it's isolated.
Yeah.
Even that film is just sticking the landing for Guardians, which it does, but doesn't link to anything, doesn't kind of have a bigger picture to it at all, because again, it was the director was on his own, given the autonomy to just go and finish it.
Yeah, and it kind of like, it may lead to something with the whole end of that film, but actually,
Maybe.
yeah, it is fairly stand on its own, off you go sort of thing, yeah.
It is, yeah. I mean, and that's, like I said, that's fine. I mean, if you've got a trilogy there and you just want to stick the landing on the trilogy, which that did, then I get it. And also everyone knows, James Gunn was heading the DC, so it was kind of like all right, finish up your trilogy, off you go. and everyone's parting his friends.
Yeah.
Which wasn't the case before. But anyway, dragging us back to this film then. So there's something I completely missed, and I wanted to say to you. Did you notice at the very start of the film we didn't get the Marvel fanfare?
Yes, it kind of went straight in. I was like, oh.
We had Marvel Studios presents.
The movies where I've moved to. Sorry. Yeah. Where I've moved to, we have a very small little cinema. Like, the first 2 rows of sofas. It's amazing.
Nice.
But we do get an intermission.
Okay.
Even in this film that was 2 hours long.
Okay, that's kind of funny.
We still get a little intermission in the middle. It was quite funny. It was the part where President Ross is on the exercise bike on the plane.
Oh, wow, okay.
I watched that scene twice because we have an intermission, okay?
Yeah.
So there was a small part of me that was like, when something like this, so like that, okay, there was no fanfare at the beginning of the film. There's part of me that goes, is there meant to be?
Yeah. Yeah. I know exactly
was
what
there
you mean.
meant to be or not? Now I'm.
But no.
But then I kind of looked it up and everyone's like, oh my God, there wasn't one. And I'm like, oh, why not?
Yeah, there was a black and white Marvel Studios Presents title card, and that was it.
Yeah, why was there not one?
Yeah, so have they dropped that from the MCU? I mean, that doesn't seem right.
No,
but that was strange. That did sort of
that's
immediately.
That's on the cutting room floor somewhere by mistake.
Yeah. It's like a load of people listening to this now. It was on mine. I don't know what you're talking about. Like they've added it back in. It's just gonna be a load of people who watched the film in the first week going, that was odd. So what did you think of Samuel Stearns then? Is this kind of the character's the leader? They don't really call him that in the film, but it's Samuel Stearns. It's the same actor returning from the Hulk film, which I liked. It tied in.
Yeah.
It's funny. This film tied to that Hulk film quite heavily.
They're talking about the Abomination and the Hulk. I must be honest. I expected Banner to show up at some point.
Well, you've actually kind of preempted a question I had for the end, which is, why didn't he?
He's busy raising his son, isn't he, at the moment, I guess, from She-Hulk?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I say that, why didn't he, is this is often a thing with the MCU now, which is, once all of these heroes came together, the Avengers and all this stuff, and once we know they're all in communication, like the end of Shang-Chi, they're all like talking to each other virtually all the time, checking in. Surely the minute Sam is faced with any of the situation, is this to do with Gamma, did you say? It's to do with a scientist? Oh, hang on a minute. Bruce!
Yeah, excuse me, Bruce. Question for you, mate.
Yeah, do you know this guy, or you know what happened here, or anything like that? Oh, that was Edward Norton. Okay, not you. All right, man, no worries.
Oh, other Bruce. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not a Deadpool movie, Samuel. Move on. But it just, like, stuff like that sometimes does make me, like, you'd pick up the phone, wouldn't you? Like, you'd be the guy you'd call.
There's a part in this movie where Ross kind of says to Wilson about restarting the Avengers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I can see, obviously, we know there's going to be other Avengers movies. They've been announced. Yeah. We know it's going to happen. Sam Wilson as Captain America, restarting them. I'm on board with that. I quite like it.
Yeah.
Then you start thinking about who would he kind of potentially get on board for it and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then, as this film plays out, more and more you kind of go, and he hasn't contacted anyone.
Yeah.
Like, Japan and America are about to go all out war over his head in the water, and at no point has he gone, oh, actually, this could be helpful. I might contact so-and-so.
I'll just drop a quick line to Doctor Strange. You can freeze time for me to chill everyone out.
Yeah, what is Stephen doing these days? Or, you know...
Yeah, I mean,
I can understand Hawkeye and Kate Bishop not being a great bit of help at sea with a bow and arrow. However, there are some people there, surely, that are like, yeah, I can give them a quick call.
I think you could like go down a rabbit hole with all of that, and you know, there's very real world implications of where people are. You know, the end of the last Doctor Strange film, he was literally taken off through a tear in the universe. He might not even be there. So there's loads of things you could do, but the one that kind of kept occurring to me is like there's two occasions in this film where you'd think that the call would be made to Bruce. With the first occasion being the minute you learn about Samuel Stearns in the background there, like even if it's just a tell me about him, what do you know about him, da 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 da. So that's the first one that I think that's strange to me that doesn't happen. The second one, of course, is the minute the president transforms into a Red Hulk, surely the Hulk is the most logical creature on the planet to come and subdue him.
Yeah. I did love the line, oh, they do them in red now.
You know, it just to me was like, I don't, yeah, like there was just like, there's a logic problem there for me.
Yeah, come on, Bruce, come help us out, mate, please. Come
on. So, but again, like you said, there could well be real, you know, world implications of why he's unavailable. You know, for all we know, he's currently on Sicaria. You know, the events. The biggest problem with the MCU right now, for me, and this is a genuine thing, so this is a gripe, is the calendar and where stuff is all over the place. Like, I have no idea the events that I've seen on the shows are at different times to the events I'm seeing in the movies.
Yeah,
so
I completely agree with
that.
There used to be, when we kind of had the first three phases, for example.
Yeah.
It was all kind of very much like this. Oh, Captain America goes back to here, but then, it finishes the film here. Right, okay, so we know where that is. And everything slotted together really quite nicely.
Yeah, and it even gave you a kind of in-film references, so okay, this is happening at the same time as that. Okay, all right, okay, that's interesting.
Whereas the last few movies, you kind of watch the last few movies added in with the shows that we've watched as well.
Yeah,
you're kind of watching it going, where are we?
Yeah, and it's a real kind of cluster. Like, I don't get it. So, for example, I have no idea where certain characters are or if they're even okay, because I may have seen them in this series, like, be hurt or be off-world or whatever, but then are they there during this? I don't know. And that's...
Is at this moment in time the reason Hulk's not there because he's currently on an island retreat training She-Hulk? Or is he off on Sakaar because he's just found out he's got a kid and he's having to pay child support and battling that one out? You don't know what's happening.
We have no clue what's going on. But I did think that even a kind of phone call thing was lacking, or a reference to, you know, your throwaway line, surely we contact the Hulk. We can't, he's not available. You know, just something just seems...
He's not been seen for years.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
there you go. Right, okay, brilliant.
Yeah. So there's... It just seems odd that in this situation... I did see in amongst a lot of the criticism of this, someone said this film felt like a script as a Hulk sequel more than a Captain America sequel. I do get that point, because I'm just saying it heavily leaned into that Hulk film, but I don't think so for me. Like,
the Hulk would have been in it for starts.
Yeah, that would kind of been a big prerequisite to a Hulk sequel. Perhaps that was it. Perhaps if he had been in it, it would have been too much like a Hulk sequel.
Yeah, I think the problem they've had is when you've got someone like Ross and like Samuel Stearns, who have had such a prominent part in like the Hulk stuff, I think you're always going to have that little bit of a kind of like, why is Sam Wilson in a Hulk film?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
I kind of understand that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I didn't think it wasn't a Captain America film.
No. What did you think to the big, like, for me, the big action sequence of the film is the battle over Tiamat? You know, the Japan, the fighter pilots, say everything. Sam and Torres heavily involved. What did you think to all of that sequence? I really enjoyed it.
I was waiting for Torres to die at any second because they keep telling him his mission is to not die, and he kept going, "Yeah, don't die, got it, Captain." Yes, and I'm like, "Stop saying it. Stop saying. We know how movies work. You say that, you're going to die. We know this works. Stop it."
Well, I'm glad he didn't die, but it was pretty obvious he was going to get winged
at some point. Yeah. But in terms of the actual action thing, I thought really good because it's not just. You haven't just got Captain America and Falcon out there kind of dealing with the actual action that's happening.
Yeah.
You had that kind of tension build up as well of the stuff that was going on inside the ship. So I think it worked together really well to kind of like just keep building the ante of like, you know, are they going to stop them in time? Even if they do stop them, is that going to stop the Japanese attack? Is he going to turn into the Hulk in the middle of a ship? Because that could be a problem.
Yeah, a big problem, yes.
You know, so I thought it was a really good... I mean, I thought the whole film was really good, but I really enjoyed that scene because there was so much going on at the same time.
Yeah.
But none of it distracted from the other thing.
One of the things I noticed in what they did, which I liked, the action sequence with Sam and Torres, you know, so Captain America and Falcon, or they'll use their names in this, it felt a little bit like Iron Man going up against the Jets, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But they also did it differently because at no point did we have the in-head display thing. You know, like you used to get the close-ups of Tony's face. We didn't get that. So we had like the HUD displays of their things, so it was like, this is going to be similar, but we're going to make sure we're not making everyone think of Iron Man because we're going to do it this way. It's almost like that is the Iron Man shot, and that's his.
I see what you mean. I agree with that. Yeah, there was a couple of similarities. Like even Falcon even does the kind of brake stop in midair so the planes go straight past.
Got it,
on our ends. There was similarities there, but enough differences to not make you go, "Oh, that's a copy."
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, to be honest with you, it's their own content, so they want to copy it. But it's a kind of, I think it was a way of making. If you look at that scene is very Iron Man with the jets kind of stuff, but they made it their own, and sort of made it so there wasn't an obvious audience sort of like, oh, I miss Iron Man. You know, he'd have dealt with this. So that was really good.
I think the other difference between an Iron Man and a Captain America is Iron Man would have just blown them up.
There's a very...
Captain America very much was making sure all the parachutes are pulled and ejector seats and, you know.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Tony possibly would have just ended it quickly.
Yeah.
With regards to... You mentioned about President Ross on the boat potentially hulking out. So I've got a question for you. Everyone knew from the trailer and the images released, Ford was going to become the Red Hulk. Everybody knew that Ross was going to transform. No one knew why or how or anything until they watched the film. Yep. Do you think giving that away in the trailer, etc., was smart? Or do you think there would have been more to it if we'd have pieced it together ourselves whilst watching the film? Or because you just mentioned then about the tension, like if you didn't know, would you have just thought, oh, the guy's heart's having a problem, he's struggling. Oh, hang on a minute, he's just crushed a pole. What the hell? Do you know what I mean? Like, would you?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. No, I think the leaking it built the tension in that scene more because we knew at some point he's going to hulk out. And oh my God, if he hulks out in the middle of the Indian Ocean, that whole ship is gone.
Yeah.
So I think actually the reveal in the trailers, I guess, more of a reveal than a leak.
It was a reveal, yeah.
I think it worked because the whole time it is like ticking time bomb. We know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I have seen criticism online that there wasn't enough Red Hulk. Yeah, I mean that's kind of too late in the film, but I don't know. Like, no, I think you could have very easily taken away from the rest of the movie if it had just been a constant punch up between Red Hulk and
and I think, I mean, we'll circle to the end, sort of fight in the ending at the end. But yeah, I think again that's a little bit kind of, it was very prominent in the trailer, and then you watch an entire 2-hour film and it's only 10 minutes. So I think perhaps people's perception of was like that was going to be like the middle act, if you know what I mean. Like, oh, he's gonna transform, and then we're gonna have the whole second part of the film dealing with that, and that wasn't the case. It was literally the finale. So yeah, but for me, like you, the tension of knowing that's where it could go. There was a bit on Air Force One where he punches a desk as well, and you're like, oh shit, like.
Don't do it in the air. That's not good for it. I mean, that's about as bad as doing it in the sea, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, so there was a real tension there of knowing that's where it's going to be. I'm kind of on the fence of whether I would have liked it in the sense of would I have liked to have pieced it together myself, but at the same time, what you said, knowing means that you kind of were like, oh, here we go. Oh no, here we go. Oh, okay, all right, we're all right. Oh. So it was a 50-50 call. I think it works. There's a cameo in the film, a cameo which has me scratching my head a little bit. Now, as we discussed, Torres is hurt. He's undergoing surgery. Sam's in a bad way, very angry. Someone walks in the room. He's like, this is private room, leave me alone. And that person is Bucky.
Did not expect that. Loved it, but did not expect that.
No, wasn't expecting it at all, because obviously we know Bucky's going to be appearing in the upcoming film, The Thunderbolts Asterix. I'm very intrigued. Does the Thunderbolts happen following this? And if so, how in the hell is future Congressman Bucky Barnes involved in a rogue military operation when surely he's now a congressman?
Makes you question.
With script writers?
Makes you question.
Well, it's where I am with this now, where that is my main criticism. I don't know, like, there's no logical, this film follows that film, or the events of this film are at the same time. It doesn't coordinate like it used to.
Something's got to go massively wrong for future congressman to become a Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
Asterix.
Yeah, Asterix is important, people.
It is. You can't be calling them that. It's fine. No. But then at the same time, I'm like, if Thunderbolts had already happened, then surely Wilson's mentioning like some sort of comment to Bucky.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so
if you look at the trailer and the kind of aesthetic of it, it's got to be around the same sort of time, and they're releasing the films next to each other. So we talk about all the reshoots and everything like that. Has this scene been added to give us a connection, and we will, when we watch the Thunderbolts, that connection would be more kind of clear of like, okay,
there it is, sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay, he showed up there. He's referenced as future congressman, and then when we get the Thunderbolts, perhaps he loses that election. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing of why.
Yeah, there was a bit there where he's like, I've got to be somewhere. I've got an appointment or something, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh my god, Thunderbolts, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And then literally the next scene, she walks in and he goes, what? Future Congressman Bucky. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah,
I mean, I was absolutely fine with him going, sorry, I've got to be somewhere, because he's just had a call from someone and he's off to go meet the Red Guardian or something. I'm fine with that. Just that one line being thrown in about future congressman, you kind of make you go, wait, what? Why?
Well, it's confusing because you then know what's coming up. So it's and the way they've done things, where stuff's all over the place, you're now like, okay, so was that film next, or was it a year earlier?
Or did the Thunderbolts go so right that Bucky's now become a national hero and therefore
no
congressman? Or
no clue. Absolutely, absolutely no clue. So it is weird. It is intriguing. But the cameo makes sense. I mean, the two of them had a great series on Disney Plus together where they built a strong relationship. His reassuring words to him around, like, you know, because I imagine, I think it'd be a very human thing to think I should have taken the super soldier serum given, you know, what I'm up against all the time. And I think Bucky's kind of reassurance to him of like, no, you've more than proven, you know, you don't need it. You are very, very skilled at what you do. And just because you have that doesn't mean all of a sudden you're a super soldier who's able to save everyone. That's not how it works.
Yeah, I love those. Like, Steve gave them something to believe in. You give them something to aspire to. Like, that was a great line.
Yeah, well, his speechwriters wrote it for him, which I thought was hilarious. So did your speechwriters give that? Yeah, a little bit. Was it good? I felt it was emotional. It was like, yeah, very good. So I liked the cameo. It was nice. It was kind of fitted in.
When he leaves the room, love you, man. Like,
love you, man.
They are really friends now.
Yeah, the relationship between those two in that series was brilliant because it developed like a buddy cop kind of thing where didn't like each other, clearly had some issues to work out, but once they did, they're very close, and I like that. And I hope it means we're going to see him a few times. Now, one of the key things to this film around Samuel Stearns is his ability to use mind control. Obviously being the leader, the brainiac that he is, he's developed this kind of technique, and he uses that to attack the president at one point using Isaiah. A great callback to the series, to Falcon Winter Soldier series.
Yes.
Incredibly sad though, like, because when you know the history of that character and the fact when you see him kind of come around from the mind control and he realizes they're going to put him in jail, that was kind of heartbreaking. That was quite
difficult. Tough. And I love that when we first see him in like Torres, and he's like, look, he's not a people person.
Yeah.
So don't just constantly talk.
Yeah.
Oh, old man, Zimmer frame. You're like, oh, kid, you have no idea.
Yeah. And we had the there's a little nod, like the Captain America punching the bag off the thing. I like that.
Yeah.
That was what Steve did. We all saw that, and it was just kind of, that was this guy was Cap as well. Let's not mess around. I also like the fact that he's training with him, so he's training with a super soldier and using his speed and agility, like to work around that. So he's going to be up against people who are stronger than him all the time. He needs to use what he's got to be able to kind of compete and level the playing field, and that's how they're training. And I like that. That was sensible.
I did kind of ground it a bit as well, because he's not a superhuman. He's not a superhero with superpowers and injected enhancement stuff. He is just a average guy who went through the army. He has his military training and everything. Brilliant.
Yeah.
But he is actually going and training to better himself constantly.
Exactly, and he's continually doing that. It reminded me, like you say, about the kind of the grounding. It reminded me in the Black Widow film, where she's kind of teasing her sister about the fact that, you know, they're getting meds like painkillers, and she's like, I doubt Thor, the god, has to take an ibuprofen after a fight. And and it's just kind of, yeah, you're right, you know. And you see it in the Hawkeye series as well, when he's like battered, beat up, and he's teaching her how to like properly clean out wounds and stuff. So yeah, this is our, you know, we are regular folks. We got to deal with this. So I'm going to teach you how we deal with this. So again, like you said, it kind of grounds the character again, which is good. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. But with the whole kind of mind control aspect to it, there was a little thing which took me a minute to work out. The activation song. Do you know what the activation song was that they used?
I did.
It was a song called Mr. Blue.
That's the one.
Which is a callback to the original Hulk film, where Samuel Stearns, when his online alias is Mr. Blue.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, that's cool. I like that.
So that was a little throwback to the original Hulk film. I like that. The whole mind control thing was kind of interesting. I liked how they pieced it together. I liked how the kind
flashing
of
lights and stuff.
Exactly, yeah. I felt that was clever. I felt the way that we as the audience were kind of taken on the journey of that. And it was kind of two-pronged because we had this other character who was working for the president investigating it at the same time. Now, this character is the one that is quote-unquote controversial. So there was a character originally when this film was very first announced who is a comic book character who is a superhero from Israel, former Mossad, becomes a powered individual and is a character. And the name of that character is the name of this one that's in the film. Now, the role was clearly cut right back. I'm guessing the decision was made given global events and the strength of feeling towards what's going on. It wasn't a good idea. I mean, we can debate that. I mean, I certainly have a strong opinion on it, but this isn't the platform for that. One of the things that I find interesting is that there's a line, and the line is delivered off camera. So I think it's Torres is finding out about her, and he's talking to Sam, and then all of a sudden the shot goes away from Torres, and it's just on Sam's face listening, and the line's delivered. Oh, it's Israeli. She was part of the Red Room, a Black Widow.
Yeah.
And Sam says, yeah, that just basically means we don't F with her at all. That was so to me, like, you're talking about all the reshoots and everything like that felt like her background was changed. And that was an ADR line put in to just kind of like that. And then that's it. There's no more references whatsoever to her background. She's in several scenes. She's a very strong character, a very strong fighter. We see her take people down in a corridor fight scene. Love a corridor fight scene.
Love the corridor fight scene.
Every
Marvel film should have a corridor fight scene.
Oh, absolutely. What did you think to they kind of, because they confront Samuel Stearns at this facility that he's kind of been able to take over from the inside, and he escapes, but he keeps activating people to fight them. And there's a moment where they're all cuffed, and one of them takes a phone call, and you hear the song play, and they're like, "Oh no, here we go again!
Yeah, uncuff me! No!"
Yeah, and I was looking at that, I was thinking, "Oh man, that could get tedious, couldn't it?" like imagine they're like trying to escape. They go into like a store, and all of a sudden the tannoy over the store starts playing, and just regular folks like start turning around, look at them. It's like, "Oh no, you're kidding me."
Here we go again.
Like you could have really dragged that out, I guess, but it worked quite well. As a kind of a very real, dangerous threat without the individual behind it being a real dangerous threat himself, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So we learn that Samuel Stearns' whole objective is to basically get revenge on President Ross. So good old Thunderbolt Ross has kept this guy under lock and key. He increased the dosage of gamma to him to increase his brain power, and then has basically been using him to develop tactics and everything. I'm guessing it's kind of implied he's used him to help him manipulate things to get the White House to become president.
That's kind of where I took it, yeah.
And they had a deal that once he was there, he'd let him go, and obviously he's not letting him go. And he
works on all the probabilities. So it would have been, right, if you go to this state and you do this, this, and this, the probability of getting the votes would be this. Oh,
exactly, yeah. Okay, yeah. Shave the mustache off. I mean, he says it, doesn't he, in a joking line, I was told, lose the mustache or lose the election. We're kind of thinking, oh, that's some sort of PR guru, but no, that could have been...
That probably was him going, right, the probability of a man with a moustache.
Yeah, Yeah, and this isn't the 70s. It's not a porno. Shave it off.
Yeah.
So the leader does kind of have this. There's a moment where he just randomly kills two people, a husband and a wife, in a house as well, which that felt very odd. Like a very kind of, okay, he's a bad guy, we know that, but that just seemed like, why would he just...
says something, I can't remember what he says now. When he opens the door, he says something like captain or general or something.
Yeah,
and you're like,
yeah.
oh, okay, these people know each other. There's some sort of, oh, he killed him.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Was there a scene missing somewhere from that one?
And that's kind of where you end up, where you're like, I know there are so many reshoots and changes, I'm now confused. Like perhaps there was some greater relevance, and they've left it in. It's just like, see, he's really bad. Don't mistake us. He's a bad guy. But we knew that. So we learned that he developed these pills to save Ross's life, to help him with a heart condition, a heart failure. But what he actually did was he's been microdosing him with gamma radiation to turn him into a Hulk. And he's now reached a point where he's trying to trigger him to create the transformation, to basically destroy him and, destroy a lot of the world as well. Because, creating a new Hulk that's completely out of control is not a good thing.
No.
The first time a Hulk was created that was slightly out of control, he kind of broke Harlem, to use Bruce Banner's words.
Yes.
I just kind of look at this and I'm thinking to myself, okay, we've now got the scene from the trailer. He's doing this press conference at the White House. We now know, we know from the trailer, this is where he hulks out. So I'm kind of like, all right, we know where we are. I know what's coming. There's something in this which I found odd. So the leader has set this up. He surrendered himself to Wilson. He's kind of put his plan in motion. He's like, yeah, I'm going back inside now. I'm good. I've done my thing. You can lock me up. I've won. And he sets this thing in motion where he's doing this. He's like revealing his phone conversation. It's being played out to all the press and all the media.
Yep.
I don't understand why Secret Service agents and stuff are grabbing at Ross to drag him off. There's no threat there.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, no one's just run in with a detonator or something aimed at the president. It's literally just a tannoy.
Yeah, and I get his press secretary would be like, let's walk away, no questions. But they're literally grabbing at him, like trying to drag him off. He's saying no. That didn't make sense to me. I know why they've done that, so he hulks out, but it just kind of, that didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no one tried to turn off the speaker system, like unplug them. No one tried to just get the president to go, right, okay, let's walk away. We're going to refilm with this and we'll deal with it when we come back out in a minute. Let's just get our heads. It was all, bundle the president. And I'm like...
Which would have been the reaction to an active shooter, Like, if someone had taken a shot at him, Secret Service bundle him and they manhandle him to get him the hell out of there, and that could have easily triggered it. So that seemed an odd decision to me. I didn't get that. But again, okay, we're going with it. That's what's happened. And he does Hulk out, becomes the Red Hulk. One of the things about the Red Hulk from the comics, which I didn't know but learned after this, is he's burning red. Like, he is literally, his skin is burning. So when you see stuff fired at him, it's not like his skin's impregnable like the Hulk. It's that it literally burns it away. So you see bullets hitting him and like steam comes off, which I thought was kind of cool. That was cool. Very cool.
My wife in the cinema was sat next to me. They're shooting at me. She's like, how has nobody learned yet that you can't just shoot a Hulk? Why does everyone keep shooting? And I'm like, I think it's just an automatic reaction.
Yeah, I was about to say.
At this point, it's just, kill it.
Yeah, it's just like, what do I do? I've got this gun in my hand. I might as well have a go. You never know. Maybe I'll be the lucky one that hits the eye. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I think you're just going to piss him off, which is
pretty much
basically what happens. So we then have to fight Red Hulk and Captain America. It trashes the White House. Levels the White House as good as the British did in the 18th century. Yeah. Just thought I'd throw that in there. And we have this, the fight kind of continues and gets dragged, and it kind of ends up on, it's in Washington, and you got the cherry blossom trees. And we know throughout the film there's this been recurring thing about Cherry Blossom and the link to his daughter, right?
Yep.
So we have, and I enjoyed the fight, by the way. I thought the fight was incredible because it was a Hulk versus someone who isn't a super soldier. So he was having to use his speed. So the little scene with Isaiah made sense. Like all of it kind of, he was utilising the equipment he had, the speed to try and keep him off balance, to keep sort of hitting him. But he was eventually losing that fight. You know, he had the wing ripped off, but then he used the percussion weapon, the Wakandan percussion weapon. He's like, please tell me, you know, please tell me I've knocked him out. No, he's getting back up, you know. So the way the fight ended was a cherry blossom, which you'd see, and again, this is clever, you'd seen them land on his skin constantly and burn away.
Yes.
But one lands in the palm of his hand and remains. And so it was like that moment of Ross returning, not the Red Hulk. And then he did calm and he shrunk back down to be Ross again.
Now, I will say my normal little thing with the Hulk, which always makes me chuckle.
Yeah.
I have put on a pair of suit trousers that are too small for me before and watched the seams rip.
Yeah.
Like a pair of snug. I've unfortunately had the moment of a pair of rather snug suit trousers, and you bend down, pick something up off the floor, and you hear that awful noise.
Yeah.
Where the seams have ripped out.
Yeah.
And you're there like, I need new trousers now. But the Hulk can get to that size, jump around wherever, and those trousers, they rip a bit around the knees.
Yeah.
But those seams.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the MCU, seams are stronger. That's clearly what we've learned.
Elasticated waists are the way forward.
Yeah. Just listen to Bruce. He gives a good good old education on that. But yeah, I mean, that's just it's a PG film.
It always makes me chuckle though.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants to see Harrison tackle out in that moment anyway.
The big red. Yeah.
Yeah, the big red. Oh my god. So, oh god, yeah, that's far too
Get that image out your head, people.
Yeah.
Stop it.
There's the scene in Thor Ragnarok when the Hulk walks around naked and Thor, that's in my brain now. Okay.
Yeah.
So he does shrink back down off the basis of that, and it was kind of like, okay, all right. I mean, it felt a little bit of kind of a. I get it. They built it the whole film. They told us kind of like this link and everything like that. He had a phone call earlier with his daughter.
Yes.
And I kind of thought, they obviously couldn't get her back. Because he just... And the way she speaks, by the way, anyway, Liv Tyler, is that very softly, very slowly manner. But I'm listening to it, I'm like, have they literally just AI'd Liv Tyler's voice? Or done an impression?
I really did think, I'm not going to lie to you, I really did think they'd been like given permission to use her voice.
Yeah.
And just piece together every interview she's ever done to find the right words.
Now, I think perhaps they did that a little bit on purpose to make us all, they couldn't get her back. Oh, yay, she shows up as a cameo at the end.
Yeah.
I think perhaps it was done that way, but I got a question for you. If you've been able to get her back for a cameo, which they did, and she shows up and it's great and it's a nice moment, surely the better way of using her would have been for her to be the reason the Red Hulk stopped.
In the blossom thing, cherry blossoms, she comes out and goes, Dad, don't do it. And he looks at her, looks at the cherry blossoms, and comes back to being Ross. Yeah.
Bang on. Yeah. Like, so to
Kevin,
me, it's
I'm available, Kevin, if you need anyone. I'm here. I'm available.
Because, like, I just kind of looked at it, and again, this could just be a case of they didn't have her all of a sudden. Oh, yeah, she is available. Quick, let's just throw this in. But to me, it's like if you have that ability, and with her, she's willing to show up and do a scene. Surely that's the scene.
Do it that scene, not the end scene. Yeah.
That's the scene, because that makes perfect sense. And no one would be kind of like, really? The Red Hulk stopped smashing the world because of a cherry plum? Really?
Because of a petal.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, like I said, there was a few kind of gripey things, but nothing major. Like, I really enjoyed it. The film as a whole, I thought it had good pacing. I thought the action was good. I thought the dialogue was good. I will say, like, there's a couple of decisions we talked about which didn't make a lot of sense, and I do think the MCU has a problem around its calendar right now. But overall, for me, it was a good Captain America film in the same sort of tone as the previous Captain America films.
Yeah, so I came out the cinema, and I think I messaged you pretty much straight after I'd seen it. You managed to see it before me.
Yeah.
And I came out, I said to you, like, it felt like a Phase 1 movie.
Yeah.
There was a bad guy who wasn't a world ender.
No.
It was just a standalone bad guy, a one-movie bad guy.
Yeah.
There was a plot development the whole way through for different characters.
Yeah.
There was action scenes, there was bits of humour, and at the end of the film, everything's tied up with a nice little bow, and then an after-credit scene leads you onto something else.
Yeah.
And it felt like the Phase 1 of, like, Marvel movies again. And I think that's probably, like, one of the biggest, like, bits of credit I can give to them for this movie.
Yeah. That's fair.
Like, it felt like Phase 1 again. Like, it was all a 2-hour movie. It was enjoyable. It was a bit of cinema, so you can go and escape, watch a film. There was nothing overly kind of like, I've got to piece all these dots together and work it all out. It was all kind of there. It was just an enjoyable, good action movie.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's what got me into Marvel.
Yeah. Okay. No, well, I'm good. Were there any other bits you wanted to discuss, or anything else you wanted to add?
I don't think so.
No, I mean, there's probably...
We're going to talk about the end credit scene after the credits, or
no. I mean, we can talk about it now. I mean, I was just kind of getting ready to wrap up. I mean, the end credit scene, like you say, kind of ties it, which is the leader, Samuel Stearns, is now in the raft, along with Ross. By the way, he's in the raft as well.
Brave. I'm hoping on different floors, because that could be dangerous.
Well, I think all of it's kind of dangerous. The raft as a whole, but if you go back to the Samuel Stearns, he's basically saying he's setting up the multiverse, the finale of the multiverse saga, which is, you think this is the only Earth, you're the only heroes. What are you going to do when you have to face them? And that kind of, we know what's coming because it's been announced, which is like the Secret Wars Battle World, etc., which is all the different universes from the multiverse, and the different versions of the heroes are going to be thrust together and basically fighting it out to see who survives. So that line for me was kind of like, oh, that's fun. And like you said, it kind of, this film told a complete story, and then that just gave us but we got bigger shit to come.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not really much to analyze from that, is there? It's just kind of...
I'm a little bit nervous about Battleworld.
Okay.
It is such a massive, big comic book arc.
Yeah.
And I think we've said before, even with like different shows we've spoken about, like The Walking Dead and stuff like that, that there are some things that in comics are absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And then when you put them to the big screen, you kind of go,
Yeah.
I am nervous for Battleworld because of how big it is.
I think you're right to be nervous about it, and I think the thing that is where they could struggle is, and I said this to you via message, Endgame. If you just look at what Endgame was with all of the characters, the huge ensemble battle and all of that, you would look at that and go, that's nuts. That's never going to work. That is going to be too much sensory overload. It's going to be ridiculous. But that was basically the climate. The build to that had been so many films, and it had been like you'd watched the first, you'd watched Infinity War. It was the climactic thing that he needed. I think with this, that's kind of where that needs to be. But the films leading into this, and the projects leading into it, aren't going to be the same as what we had with that Phase 1, Phase 2. Like the Infinity Saga was very mapped out. The multiversal saga, we know they cut halfway through and are just ending it. And we know why that's happened.
Yeah, and I think that's the bit I'm most nervous for, because I'm kind of like, we had 10 years of build up to Endgame.
Yeah.
And we've kind of now got a middle point where they've gone, yeah, this isn't working anymore. So let's cut it there. Let's end it. And then we can go to something else. And I'm just a bit like, oh, okay.
Well, I think you're right to feel
Landing
that way.
Has to be stuck on this.
But at the same time, I also don't think... You look at the reaction to Marvel films now, I don't think you're going to get 10 years to build something again.
No, not a chance. I think the way people are now, and probably especially over kind of like the last 5 to 10 years anyway.
Yeah.
The culture of the world has changed so quickly and so much.
Yeah.
That it's now trendy to hate things that everyone else likes.
It is, yeah.
And it's now trendy to make sure that if someone likes something, you speak louder over the top of them of why they're wrong to like it. And it's kind of like, this could be, you're never going to, I don't think you're ever going to get something like Marvel Phase 1, 2, and 3, because I don't think anyone's going to give you the chance.
No, that's my head on it as well.
So they have to move. The pacing now has to be so much quicker, because when you had 10 years, you now might have 5.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the way people consume media is different now. You only got to look at TikTok. TikTok is like short, sharp videos, and people consume that. YouTube is so. Yeah, is things have changed.
You're not going to get a 3-hour marathon movie now, because people are going to go, "Oh, it's too long."
Well, I think with these you probably will, but I think, like you said, I think how they're received could be very, very different to Endgame, which, like I said, if you look at that just on paper, the concept of that is nuts.
Yeah.
All of it, from the time travel aspect, all of it is just so over the shark jumped, all of it is. But everyone was along for the ride, so you don't get people really pointing it out. But whereas this, I think people are literally sitting there ready and waiting to point stuff out. They're not ready to go along the line. They're literally just like, yay, can't wait to rip on this.
Like even with Brave New World, one of the things I saw was it's ridiculous, the whole thing set in summer, but cherry blossom in March.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, fuck off. It's a good movie. Just let it be a good movie. Don't worry about, the blossoms obviously came out a few months late this year.
Yeah.
No, just enjoy the damn movie.
Yeah, I mean, that is a degree of, I'm just sat here looking for faults rather than trying to enjoy something. Unfortunately, that's kind of a... Also, again, you look at people, they want to make a name for themselves. They want to get their podcast noticed. Ironic for me to say this. They want to get their reviews or whatever. And it's true. If you say something narky and shitty, you're going to get a bigger interaction and therefore more views than if you're overly positive, and that's just a sad reality.
The old clickbait thing, innit? Yeah.
Yeah, and that feeds into it. You look at these articles all the time, like, the top 5 worst MCU films. You very rarely see my favourite. It's my 5 worst. And one of them would be one that people like. And the reason why they do that is because they know everyone's going to jump in the comments like, how could you say that's bad? And that gets some interactions and likes, and that builds their little profile and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, enough of this. So that is our show. That was Captain America Brave New World. I enjoyed it. I thought the film was good. I'm enjoying there's very rarely MCU stuff that I look at and just go, yeah, I really didn't like that. Normally I can find positives in pretty much everything I'm watching, so that's pretty good. That's why I'm still a fan. Speaking of Marvel, if you're a Marvel fan, coming very, very soon to Disney Plus is the new Daredevil series, Daredevil Reborn.
Here it is.
Cannot wait for this. I was a big fan of the Netflix adaptation. The fact we're going to get a continuation of that story, I'm over the moon. Yeah, really, really, really looking forward to it. So Daredevil Born Again.
I'm also terrified because there are characters that I really love in that show, and I'm genuinely terrified for them.
Yeah. I'm fairly confident I'm going to be heartbroken, but we will be covering that episodically, so check out the socials for when we'll be back on that. Until next time, everybody, you all take care.
And Sam, on your left.
Thank you for listening to the Stuff and Things podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can find us on Facebook or online. Simply search the Stuff and Things podcast to join in our conversation every week.